Hi, friend. Oh, I'm so glad that you are taking this session. It means a lot to me. My whole mission in life is to help humans really find balance, come into homeostasis, whether that's through mindfulness and meditation, through walking, through deep contemplation, or through your food and understanding your DNA. So, welcome to Eating for Your Genes or Eating for Your DNA. Today's presentation, I'm hoping to get through it uh, efficiently. Let's start. Thanks for being here. Let me share my screen real quick. Here we go. Okay. Uh, so you can see here, my name is Lane Kennedy, and maybe you know me. Maybe you found me through the Sober Curator or through Sobriety for Dummies or through First Responder. There's so many ways that people find me. And what I really, really love is just highlighting this right here where it says CFN, CHT, MBSR, and nutrigenomic practitioner. Certified functional nutritionist. So I love nutrition, nutrients. It's really important to me and how it interacts in the body. I'm a certified hypnotherapist. What I've discovered is that a lot of people have resistance to change. And so using hypnotherapy has been a really wonderful, life-changing tool. So I'm also that, and then I'm a mindfulness-based stress reduction practitioner. So I help people understand what mindfulness is and how to incorporate mindful living in their life. I'm also a yoga nidra instructor, a yoga instructor, cognitive behavior, like there's a lot of things, but I'm not going to get into everything. Let's get into today's presentation. So I really want you to know that this presentation is about you taking charge of your health. Okay? You have that power. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about DNA. You will get a copy of this, and you will also get a book on methylation that I have written. So my job is to empower you to learn. That's my goal here. I'm going to talk about the pathway or pathways to heal, the methylation cycle. I'm not going to go into it because it's like going back to 10th grade. We're going to talk about 3 genes every person should know about. Maybe that would be a good idea. There's tons of genes that you can learn about, but I'm just going to point 3. I'm going to give you some ingredients for a superhero diet, like just a couple of ingredients that you can put into your week. Once or twice a week is going to change the expression of your DNA. I'm going to go over 3 blood markers that you might want to get checked. I'm also going to introduce or perhaps just talk about peptide therapy. I'm a huge advocate for peptides. They've completely transformed many of my clients and my life personally. And then I'll share my top 3 peptides. Okay, so let's talk about just becoming an N of 1. So I am an N of 1. I belong in the society. It's me taking charge of my health. And I give you the definition here of, an N of 1 is a clinical trial in which a single patient is the entire trial, a single case study. These types of trials are designed to determine the efficacy or side effects of a treatment for that individual. So I want to just roll back time to my 20s when I was bedridden and my skin was turning yellow. I gained 30 pounds. I lost 30 pounds. The doctors said, "What's going on with you, Lane? What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know." And they took all types of, labs and blood work and ran me through big machines. They stamped my medical records with AIDS. That's what it was known for back there, which is now autoimmune deficiency syndrome. And I was catapulted into a life of discovery. I thought I was doomed for a life of illness. And it was really a wake-up call for me. So becoming an N of 1 society, it's to personalize your treatment. It's identifying the best course of action for you. You become your own patient. I became my own patient. So back in the 90s, we didn't have Google Scholar. We didn't have all the tests, all this, scientific studies on anything in these periodicals online. So I became my own individual study, and I was determining in real time which treatment would suit me. So I found a practitioner who used a lot of green juice and olive oil and supplements and bee honey, just like all kinds of ingredients. And we tracked meticulously on what things were having an effect on me. And lo and behold, here I am, a couple decades later, healthy. My hair is not falling out. My skin is not yellow. I definitely have not, I don't have that 30 pounds of bloat on my body, and I'm living fully optimized. I do want you to know also is that when I was diagnosed, I had no hormones in my body. So all of my thyroid, my progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, they all flatlined. And so I was told that I would never be able to conceive a child. I'm happy to share that I have a 15-year-old today who is healthy and happy. And I don't share this as like, check this out, like, look at what I've done. I share this as this is something that you can become a part of. You can become your own N of 1 study. So let's get into, how you can change the narrative. I think a big part of that is just being proactive, right? And understanding and taking action around your DNA. I am so passionate about DNA, understanding how you are unique. You are not like your partner, your wife, your husband, your sister, your father, your mother, your child. You are unique to you. And you can change the narrative by understanding your DNA. You can also change the narrative by changing the way that you think. And you can also change the narrative by personalizing what you put into your body. So we're going to go through that. So just a little bit about deoxyribonucleic acid, which is DNA. This is the building blocks of who you are. And this, I just go back to when my son was being born, and prior to my son being born, I was super curious about DNA. I live in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and this is where the Genomic Project was happening. And, people were very curious here. And I told my husband, I said, we need to get involved with this. This is going to be something of importance here. And so we invested in a company, and we had our DNA pulled, and I was like, ooh, this is so interesting. And I started to learn about DNA then. One of the things that I got really interested in is epigenetics. And the epigenetics is like the editor of that manual. So you can look here on the slide. Epigenetics is like the editor of the manual. So you can think about your DNA as being this large book. And the epigenetics, it doesn't change the actual words, but it can change how the book is read. So epigenetics process can turn pages, your genes, off or on, or highlight certain passages without alerting the text itself or altering the text itself. So I want you to just kind of, and this is what I do in the work that I do with people, is really understand the nutrigenomics and the nutrigenomics and the epigenetics of somebody's DNA. So we'll just keep going through this. I'm just throwing words out here for you to just get familiar with, and for you to poke around and get curious and learn about. Epigenetics can adjust the delivery of the lines in the book and potentially influence everything from your health to your behavior. So that's really important, that the epigenetics can turn a switch on, and then that expresses how you behave, how you think, how you see the world. It's really intense. So because I've been doing this for quite a while and been in this arena, I've seen a lot of different DNA companies come and go. And this is the company that I have fallen in love with. It's 3X4, and it's women led. The founder, the scientist, I just really appreciate the lens in which she looks at DNA. And the other thing is that you'll notice here that it's colorful. So I kind of grew up with black on white. So the reports that I were looking at was like a lot of heavy text with just numbers. And I was like, I can't wrap my head around this. So I invested in a company with a bunch of black on white and numbers, and I just was like, I can't take it. But I stuck it out. I was like, I'm committed to this. So, this report, there's about 31, sometimes 36 pages. It's quite robust. And again, it's super colorful. And this is what you would end up having if you decided to work with me and discover your DNA. What really gets me excited are the pathway. It's a pathway-based result. So if you notice here, there are these pathways. The nutrients is a pathway, activity is a pathway, energy is a pathway, cardiovascular health is a pathway, the systems is a pathway, and the cellular is a pathway. Now, you're like, well, what does this have to do with anything, Lane? Well, these pathways are in your body, and these are where the genes are going to show up, and this is what we would talk about. So you can notice here that some of these are bright, and I'm just going to tell you that if this cellular pathway here is having high impact everywhere, you're going to have some issues, and we're going to have to take care of it. Down here, you can see these are low impact pathways, but there's still some impact here. So we still have to investigate. I bring this all to you to show you that there are many pathways to the body that can be adjusted, corrected. Your genes are not going to lie to us. So if you have a vitamin B deficiency and you're of the variety that you don't want to eat any meat products, well, then we need to figure out a way to get that vitamin B into you. Because if this gene, this pathway is already compromised or it's already been turned on and you're not ingesting it, on a weekly basis, this is going to impact all the rest of the pathways in your body. So that's a little tiny example. Another example that I'll show here is this methylation pathway, the cellular pathway, this whole cellular system. If this is high impact, and say maybe the oxidative stress was high, and then the detoxification was maybe it's low, it's still having a lot of impact on the entire body. The cellular pathway is the pathway that we want to have optimized at all times because it compromises the rest of the pathways. So this is, I put this in here. I'm not going to go into the methylation cycle because I'm also giving you a book to read about the methylation cycle so you can have some ideas around it. But the methylation cycle is the system that's very complex. You see how many things it's touching, how many genes it's touching, how many chemical reactions that are happening. And this is a basic diagram. I didn't even do the major one. So I really want you to wrap your head around that this methylation is a chemical process that occurs within your body involving the addition of a methyl group, which is just one carbon atom attached to 3 hydrogen atoms to a molecule. In plain speak, it's basically saying this cycle is the backbone of all the little cells in your body making things happen, okay? This process is crucial for regulating gene expression, which means it helps to control when genes are turned on or off. So I like to think about a switchboard and just think about, all of those switches are turning on lights and you want all the lights to be green. And then suddenly one light switch gets turned off and now it's red. And then that switch then it touches another one and then that switch. And then it goes down and that switch. And then all of a sudden you have another one that's another red. So then you start having more red lights on your switchboard. We don't want that. So this methylation cycle is kind of in charge of all those little tiny switches, making sure that either the lights are green or they're red. I like to also, I've talked about this before when I do my live sessions. You could think about methylation as putting a little sticky note on a specific page in a recipe book, or you could think about like you want to make a chocolate cake, and just imagine one of these sticky notes being over the eggs, and it calls for 6 eggs. Well, if you don't know that you're supposed to put eggs in there, or not 6, you put 3 in, how's the recipe going to turn out? It's still going to be an attempt of a chocolate cake, but maybe it's not as fluffy, right? So it's not the end of the like end all be all. It's just it's going to be a flat cake, right? But say that that methylation cycle, you had 2 sticky notes on 2 parts of the recipe. Well, how's that chocolate cake going to be? Ooh, maybe it's like turns out to be like a brownie, and you're like, and you're like, this is not a chocolate cake, right? So it starts to impact, this methylation cycle starts to impact the body in really odd ways, right? The inflammation. Well, let's just turn the page here. Methylation cycle, the symptoms that might be experienced due to poor methylation. So changes in cholesterol. I see this all the time. Cognitive impairment, low energy, depression, ADHD, digestive problems, inflammation I just mentioned, migraines, headaches, and think about, you have high cholesterol and the doctor's like, well, we'll just put you on this medicine, right? And really, if you clear up your methylation cycle, your cholesterol could change. Or, you go in and you're like, I'm terribly depressed and I have anxiety. So the easy fix is going on an SSRI, right? But really, if you cleared up and cleaned up your methylation cycle through diet and lifestyle, you might not need that SSRI. And when you go on all these medications, medication layer, medication on top of another medication, what ends up happening is that they start to affect your DNA, right? Because they're taking out nutrients, or they're backing up that methylation cycle, which causes more damage. So I just want you to be like, oh, this is how the body is operating. There's a lot more to it than what I understand. And my attempt here is to help you see it a little more clearly. Okay, so I want to get into these 3 genes that I think everybody should know about. There are tons of genes, but I just chose these. A lot of people talk about MTHFR because of the methylation, like I was just talking about. I'm also going to talk about the COMP gene and the FTO gene. I think I talk about one other gene, but I can't remember. In person I do, but maybe I can't remember. It's in the slide deck. Okay, so let's talk about the COMP gene, which is the stress response superstar, which, COMP stands for the catechol-ol-methyltransferase. It's a gene in your DNA that provides instructions for making an enzyme of the same name. The COMP enzyme helps break down certain chemicals in the brain. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute, including dopamine, adrenaline, and noradrenaline, which affect the stress response, right? So your mood and behavior is affected by this COMP gene. This is really important. If you have a sluggish COMP gene, you're going to be moody, okay? The COMP gene is known for, it's connected to dopamine, and we know that dopamine is that feel-good neurotransmitter that also helps us regulate stress, right? We want more dopamine usually all the time. And if dopamine levels are not balanced, it can become affected how stressed or relaxed we feel, right? So when we have a surge of dopamine, we're like, yes. And when we start to dip down, we're like, right? So COMT, really helps break down that excess dopamine that's in our brain and keeps us balanced. That's how I like to see, like, remember, I'm all about keeping you balanced here. So we want to make sure that this COMT gene is taken care of and loved up, nurtured. So one of the things that I loved finding out here is that research has shown that estrogen, and for women in menopause or postmenopause or menopause, this is a really big deal. So research has shown that estrogen, a female sex hormone, can affect the activity of the COMT enzyme. This may be part of why men and women can experience stress differently. So imagine if you're a woman and your cycle is at that low point, COMT is just not, it's like, it has nothing to work with. And you become more depressed. So again, the genes are expressing all the time, and it's whether or not we're kind of clued into it. Typically we're not, because we don't know about our genes. It's not like we're taught in 7th or 8th grade about our DNA. Wouldn't that be great if we were? Wouldn't that be great? So I'm, again, just bringing awareness to how the COMT gene will differ for men and women. It's also involved in the functioning of the prefrontal cortex right here, right? This is the headquarters. It's associated with the personality, the decision-making, and social behaviors. So it's really in charge of, like pain sensitivity, schizophrenia. It also has a little bit to do with your heart disease. So this is a pretty significant gene. I like this interesting fact that I grabbed here. Research into COMT is ongoing, and it has been associated with a variety of traits and conditions, but how it interacts with other genes in the environment is complex. Your COMT gene type could influence how well you might respond to certain medications and treatments, especially those affecting the brain and mood. So we really want to pay attention, again, going back to that methylation cycle. And if you're not methylating properly and you say, I'm really depressed, and they say, well, we'll just put you on SSRI, that could affect your COMT gene, which could affect you long-term, short-term, in the moment. So this is such a big deal, this gene. I really pulled this out for people to understand in their charts. Okay, so let's go on to the MTHFR gene. And this is like, methyl hydrofolate reductase. And it's a gene that provides instructions for making an enzyme involved in processing amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. Particularly, it helps convert the amino acid homocysteine into methionine, which the body needs. So imagine if this MTHFR is sluggish and it's slow on converting that homocysteine into methionine. How do you think you're going to feel? Moody. Like, not great, bloated. And this is the building blocks of inflammation. So when I see this MTHFR gene not properly working, I know that this person needs support. And usually in their immune system can be a little compromised. And we just have to get them up and running, functioning properly. And elevated homocysteine levels has been linked to different health issues like heart disease and strokes. And I always talk about how, women are dying from health, from heart attacks and cardiovascular disease. And I would put money on it that MTHFR is involved here, 100%. So something that would be really helpful for people is just, adding vitamin B, getting some folate into the body. You really want to put foods that have nutrients into the body, because the body has this really great sensory. It recognizes like, oh, yes, this is natural. I want this vitamin. I want this green plant in my body. I can use it, as opposed to a little tiny pill, right? That's just a chemical going into your body. So let's see. What's the next one? Oh yeah, the FTO, the fitness and obesity gene. This is the fat mass and obesity associated gene, FTO gene. And I work with a lot of women who are, I just can't lose this weight, Lane. I just can't do it. I'm stuck. I don't understand why. And well, this could be why. Your FTO gene has been turned on, right? that little switch got turned on. It went red. The green light turned to red. And now you're like, what do I do? How do I get it back to a green light? Because this gene will affect the hormones of the body. It can impact a woman's body weight, body fat, and the muscle mass. When you understand that you have this gene, you can understand how to manage your weight in a healthy manner. This gene will show up in people with obesity. This is also a gene that if you know you have it, you're like, okay, I just know that I'm not going to be, 110 pounds, right? I know that I can be 150 pounds of muscle, right? So you can change your mindset around your body. You can lose the weight and then change the body composition and just know that, oh, I am not going to be this skinny person. My body's actually going to look differently. So I've done a lot of that kind of work with clients about the FTO gene. Yes, I knew it. I did have the VDR gene. So I put this in because, as we age forward, our bones, people forget, they fall, they crack a hip. It takes longer for them to heal. And they're like, why? So the bones, this VDR it stands for the vitamin D receptor gene. It provides instructions for making a protein called the vitamin D receptor, which allows the body to respond to vitamin D. So the VDR is crucial for maintaining proper levels of calcium and phosphate in the blood, which are necessary for bone health. So if this gene is impaired, then that calcium phosphate in the blood is not going to be as potent, as robust. So when you fall, your time in healing is going to take a little bit longer. It also has roles in cell growth, immune regulation, and inflammation reduction. So just, again, if you know this information, you might be a little more careful, right? Maybe you're an extreme sport junkie and you're like going on BMX bikes. And you're like, well, maybe I need to reconsider this. Maybe I need to do a different kind of sport. So if I fall, it's not going to be so damaging. The other thing here, it's suggested that caffeine intake is limited to less than 300 milligrams a day due to caffeine's inhibition of calcium absorption. So again, this is just, oh, I need to live a little bit differently because I have this gene. Like, oh, this is insightful information. I don't have to have 3 Starbucks every day. I just have to have 1. I think this is really, it's just good information. So let's get into some ingredients that are going to nurture your body. And I find a lot of people are afraid to explore and to cook. And a lot of people eat the same thing every day. And I just want to invite you to open up the pantry and explore some of these nutrients. Okay. We definitely need more fiber in our diets, and we need more fiber in our diets for so many reasons, but please, one of them being just being able to detoxify the body. Fiber is a natural resource to cleanse out this microbiome, to take away everything that's been stored in there, any excess estrogens, environmental toxin, it's so helpful. And I just fast forwarded, didn't I? So one really great ingredient that you could put into your diet is adzuki beans. And I love the Nutrivore book. She's done an amazing job. I have her always with me here, Dr. Sarah Ballantyne. You can see I'll have this. This is also in the resources. And it's just a great tool to see how nutrient dense something is that you want to put on your plate. And adzuki beans are the best score for polyphenols and vitamin B9. And remember, vitamin B is one of those things that you need for your methylation cycle, right? So this would be a great way to upregulate those genes and you don't have to eat a lot of them. So it's a half a cup, a half a cup. Now imagine you just put a half a cup into your diet every other day. That's incredible. The thing that I want you to see is what's that? Nutrient density is high. You have your 576 score. You have 6.5 grams of protein. So we should always be chasing our protein, making sure that we get enough protein. And if you're trying to figure out how much protein you should be getting every day, you think about, well, if I weigh 150 pounds, that's 150 grams of protein. If I weigh 190 pounds, that's 190 grams of protein. If you're 220 pounds and you want to get down to 170 pounds, that's 170 pounds. Then you want to go into the deficit, right? So you always want to be chasing your protein and making sure you get that really nutrient dense protein. And then here, I also want to show you the amino acid profile. Here, incredible. You have all of these amino acids, the methionine. Remember, we need that methionine from the homocysteine that converts the glycine to chill us out. So this is a very complex amino acid profile here for a half a cup of azuk beans. Go get some. I also want to just mention the phytonutrients here. I'll talk more about those because people just don't talk about the phytonutrients and the polyphenols. Really, really important. Okay, omega-3s. So we just don't get enough omega-3s. We get a lot of omega-6s, but not enough omega-3s. We really want to start venturing into eating more omega-6s. What is that going to look like? Well, it's going to look like walnuts. It's going to look like, I have some here, the little smaller fish in general, hemp, olive oil. You know, the omega-3 fatty acids are crucial for the cell activity, making sure that the cell is nice and the cells in our body are really nourished. So we want to make sure that we're getting in those omega-3 fatty acids. And if you cannot eat them enough, right? If you're like, I just can't deal, Lane, then you want to get a supplement for sure. You can think of omega essential fatty acids like the oil in a car's engine. Without oil, the engine's parts just the grind, right? So with the omega-3s, it's this nice lubricated, just the yumminess of the car. It's like a hum. And that's what we want your body to be feeling like. We want it to just hum along. So the alpha-linoleic acid, ALA, it helps the body and all the functions. It helps build the cell membranes. Remember that we want the cells to be nice and lubricated. The alpha-linoleic acid helps the brain function, reduces that inflammation. It completely helps with lowering risk of heart disease, supports mental health, eye health. I cannot express enough how important fatty acids, essential fatty acids are. Just get them into your body. I told you I was going to talk about the phytonutrients and the phytonutrient dense foods. So you're like, what does that mean, Lane? What are those called? So the phytonutrients that I'm talking about in particular are the polyphenols, the phytosterols, the carotenoids, the glucosinolates, the thiosulfonates, the betalains. So we find these in our little herbies. Isn't that cool? Yeah, in our herbs. We want to make sure that we're eating our herbs. Fresh herbs are going to be your best friend, but your new best friend is going to be Chinese broccoli with a Nutri-Score of 2,431. What? So this is one of the most nutrient-dense foods that you can put on your plate. So if you're thinking you have a kid who's picky and they just don't want to eat their vegetables, just give them a cup of this, you know, like a cup of this every other day would be great. Totally fine. You get the rich phytonutrients here. You see, you get the glucosinolates and the carotenoids. Then you have an extreme amount of vitamin K. If you're a woman in menopause, this is going to be a great nutrients for you, making sure that you get that vitamin K in, and your vitamin C. Look how much that is. It's 158% just by, consuming a cup. That's incredible. Okay, so some people don't like beets, but I do. I do. I love them. And I love them because of the phytonutrients here. Look at the carotenoids, the polyphenols, the phytosterols, and the betalains. These are gene switches. Literally, these phytonutrients are turning the genes on. This is where the nutrigenomics comes in and plays with the epigenetics. This is where food is really making a difference. This is why people say, when I have somebody say, I don't want to eat vegetables, I just don't want to, I don't like herbs, I don't like it. It's like, well, do you want your genes to work properly or not? Because if you don't, then okay, that's fine. But if you want your genes to switch to those green lights, then you want to be putting these into your body just as much as you can, my friend. Oh, can't say it enough. One more thing that I'm going to share with you are nuts and seeds. This is really brain food right here. 2023 prospective cohort study found that among adults aged 55 to 75, those consuming at least 3 servings of nuts per week had a significantly slower decline in cognitive performance compared to participating eating less than 1 serving of nuts per week. So a lot of people, a lot of gurus or health influencers are like, don't eat the nuts. They're not good for you. I'm going to tell you, eat the nuts, right? It's not like you're eating a whole bag of nuts. No, you're eating a cup 3 times a week. You could do a mixed nut. You could roast them. You could throw them into salads. You could put them into your smoothies. Just get the nuts into your body to improve the cognitive quality of your brain. Okay. I don't want to, I could go on and on about that. Let's talk about spinach with a NutriBurst score of 4,548. And notice the carotenoids here. Again, this is a gene switch. This is like a lock and key. This is a, like boom, open up, green light. Really want you to get some more spinach into your life. And then, people think, oh, I'll have a piece of onion on my burger. Can you just throw onion into everything? Seriously. Alums keep everything going, and they're so delicious. And there's so many health benefits of the allium family. What's her name? Oh my God, MS. She has MS. I'm like drawing a blank. It's not coming to me. Okay. All I know is that this is one of the most, again, a nutrient-rich ingredient, an excellent source of fiber, B6, vitamin C, vitamin K. There it is again. And it has the phytonutrients, the most notably the organosulfur, canopenes, and thiosulfonates. It's these little phytonutrients that are going to upregulate your DNA so you are feeling better, right? So I know, God, Terry Walls, the Walls Protocol with Terry Walls. She uses alliums, onions in her protocol because of the richness of these phytonutrients. Alliums I try to put them in everything now because they're abundant. So put that, and there's leeks, there's chives, onions, red onions, scallions, throw them in there. And you can see here, you get all of these. They've got a great amino acid profile here. Let's see. Chives. Chives have a NutriBurst score of 3,531. Super dense. This is a yes must food. And it's a 1/4 cup. Come on. You can throw that into your omelet. It'd be delicious. Look at all that fiber. That's great. I'm telling you, I get so nerdy on this. Okay, let's move on. Let's get out of the food and into the blood. So a lot of my clients will come to me and say, oh, I just had labs done. And I'll say, when was that? And they'll say, oh, that was last year. And I'll be like, no, that means you didn't have them just done. Just done means like last week. So just to be clear, you need recent lab work within the last, 1 week to 4 weeks to really evaluate where you've been. One lab that I see often overlooked is vitamin D. I'm giving you some parameters here that you can look at. Now, I'm giving these numbers to you in a very loose manner. I don't know what test you are going to be testing on. I don't even know if these will make sense to the test that you are testing on, but these are the test numbers that I use with my clients with the test that I use. So become very aware of that. But vitamin D is this, a nutrient that is so important, and we're just not getting it in our bodies. And here I live in San Francisco, which, there's a lot of overcast days here, and most people here are deficient in it. So if we want to have strong bones and a really healthy immune system, we need to make sure that our vitamin D levels are up, 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 up. We can get that through eating some great nutrients. We can get that by supplementing and, of course, being in the sunshine. Okay, now, your hemoglobin A1C is your blood sugar signal. This is the last 3 months of your life. This test looks at what you put into your body for the last 3 months. So it doesn't lie. This is what I love about this. So typically what I'll say to somebody is like, so how do you eat? And they'll be like, fine, no problem. I can say, okay, let's get your HA1C done. We'll get it, and they're just off the charts, and they don't understand why. So then sometimes we'll get a little glucose monitor here. They'll wear it. We'll track them. Sometimes this is when people realize that they've been drinking too much alcohol. Sometimes this is when they'll understand that the sugar or the coffee that they're drinking every day is not the greatest thing for them. So having the hemoglobin A1C is a really great marker of your lifestyle. And I don't know what your lab test numbers are going to reflect, but this is what the testing that I do reflects. So I thought I would include them in the presentation. Okay, so thyroid. If you're struggling with weight, or you're hot and cold, or your eyebrows are falling off your face, you might have some thyroid issues. So the thyroid is really your metabolism's maestro. And, there are eight different labs that I typically pull on somebody. I'm sharing here your TSH labs. Now, the thyroid is very complex. It is a master hormone, and it regulates a lot. So this is not anything to be done on your own. I mean, for sure, take this information and do with it what you will, study and learn, but find a practitioner who can help you navigate the terrain, because your thyroid can go all over the place. The other thing that I want to be really, really clear here is that when you're taking these tests, understand that the test that you're taking is for that time period. And then you're going to test again in 3 months and another 3 months after that. And you're going to start seeing trends, and you're going to start recording things. And if you're on a hormone optimization path to really feel good in your body, it's going to take some time. I want you to understand it's going to take some time. It's not going to take like 1 month, 3 months. It could take 6 or 9 months. It could even take a year to really get your body into hormonal optimization. I know you're like, no, Lane, that can't be true. If you're willing to do all the work, I'm willing to do it with you. Just give it time. Okay. So let's talk about peptides. Yeah. I should take the next frontier off here, because it's here. So I love peptides. They've been just a game changer in my life. Peptides contain between 2 and 50 amino acids, and they're typically classified as a protein. They go right into the body. The body sees them as, just this, who you are. They are naturally occurring peptides, oxytocin, vasopressin. They're inside you. And what's been really great in the last couple of years that I've been playing in this space is that there's just all kinds of new peptides coming out. So fun. So fun. So I want to talk about BPC 157. It's a body protective compound. And this is a peptide that I will use on everyone, because it just does so many wonderful things, from healing the microbiome, to headaches, to inflammation. It's overall, I use it in conjunction with other peptides, a MOTS-c, a TB500, an alpha, like it's just a great, great peptide. Okay, thymosin beta 4, TB4, there's also TB500. Both of these peptides I use for healing specific injuries, soft tissue injuries. If somebody goes in, I've had some clients going for knee surgery, hip surgery, shoulder surgery, and we just use the thymosin, put it right into the body. And typically what will end up happening is that the doctor will say, what's going on? You're healing at a very rapid rate because of this peptide. The body recognizes it as its own. It's, oh my God, it's time to heal. Let's heal. Boom. So it's been a really great tool in the healing toolbox. CJC1295 is a growth hormone. And so typically what I'll do is I'll put somebody on a CJC to kind of boost their metabolism, so to speak, but it improves the quality of their skin. It helps them sleep. It overall is just a really nice body compound. Human growth. Do I want to talk about that? Some people I'll put, people on growth hormone, but typically I'll try CJC first. Okay, I don't think there's anything else. I do have a couple of recipes that I want to share with you because I think it's really important to keep the phytonutrients up, but it's also really important to keep the protein up, right? And we kind of overcomplicate things. So I want to make sure that you know how to find me, Lane Kennedy, but you're in the app, the Mindful Life. You can find me there. But this is a really great recipe with chickpeas. You get some herbs, right? So the phytonutrients from the herbs are here. And then you also get the protein from the garbanzo beans. I just tell you how to do it. And then another really great I like easiness, is the chia pudding. So I have in here chia, chocolate, and coconut milk, right? Because you want to get the omega, you want to make sure that you get the protein, and it's delicious. This is a grab and go. So I've included these recipes. See, there's deliciousness. Let's go off. And I hope that that this has been educational for you, that it's been interesting for you, it's been thought-provoking, that you have, said, oh, I've learned something, or maybe I want to go research this, or maybe I want to go have my DNA down with Lane and understand more. And if that's the case, then let's dig in, let's do it. I love sharing DNA, and I love being a part of somebody's process and the waking up and watching somebody's body completely change and transform as a result of them understanding, like, oh, my future self is going down this path no matter what, but I can actually change it by changing my lifestyle and my diet and my habits. So I hope that this has been useful and served you, and I'm so glad that you're a part of the Mindful Life and, my little world here. Thanks for being here. And if you have any questions, reach out. You know how to find me. All right, friend, take good care until I see you. Bye.